Since you're here, you can say that, right? Obviously, the biggest thing for us today is that final exams officially end. Today, we have all our papers and reports and exams taken, so I know that's a big relief for our guys who've really been locked in that area for about the last 7 days or so. Our academic services people do an unbelievable job. So today, when they come to practice at 2:30, we've all been there, having taken final exams. I think their mind will be really more free and ready to go today. Obviously you got to balance all that during finals week in terms of how hard you practice, how long you practice, how much you strain them mentally. I think that's always a delicate balance for a coach. So we're excited to kind of move to the next chapter. We started our preparation for Missouri yesterday. Guys were good. We had a short practice. But they were really sharp. Obviously, it's going to be a great challenge. It really starts with their 3 perimeter players. Those guys are really talented. Their 4 and 5s complement them very well. I really like the kid Williams and his motor. He's getting 3.5 offensive rebounds a game as a freshman. And then, as I mentioned, the 3 perimeters. Those guys are responsible for over 60% of their scoring, shots taken, threes taken, assists, steals, and you can keep going right down the line. So, those 3 are as talented a trio on the perimeter as we'll play all year. Our guys are looking forward to that challenge. Obviously on Saturday. It's one of those games that it's easy to get up for. It's an exciting environment. Our guys are always, talking about it even during the off season. How much they enjoy being a part of one of the game's best rivalries. So, we look forward to traveling tomorrow, getting over there, and lacing them up. Questions?
You recruited Clarkson, right? I mean, just what special kind of player is he? I mean, are you kind of surprised what he's got so far?
Yeah, I'm not. I mean, he's he's very gifted. He's got the unique thing about him, Jeremy, is great size for a point guard. I mean, he's 6'5", and then is able to do all the things that he can do. I mean, he handles the ball. He makes good decisions. He can score at all 3 levels of the court. Finish game, mid-range, long range. He can do that off bounce and catch. He's athletic. He's competitive. I think he's a terrific player, and obviously he means a lot to their team, and does a lot in terms of scoring, in terms of making guys better, and being a playmaker out there. So it'll be a good challenge for us.
Such a big gap in between games. Was it good to have the distraction coming off a loss with the finals and all that?
Well, I don't know about the distraction, loss, all that, but finals, are taxing for any team. Not just our team, for any team. So to be able to, like I started out by saying at the outset, to get through that, and I think our guys have done a good job with that. Our academic services people do a great job of working with our players. To get through that, Marcus, I think is a mental, relief, kind of like big, So that'll be good, I think, as we head into today and finish up 2 days of prep for the game on Saturday.
This game, John, last year was your first, and I'm sure everybody tried to prep you on it and say, it's a big game, it's important to the fans, it's a cool environment. And then you go down there. Was it anything different than what you thought? What was your observations of it for the first time?
More emotional and I'm trying to think of maybe the best phrase, Top. There was more emotion to the game than what I thought. I thought at times, I've watched it now several times since we played them last year. On the off season, we watched all of our film. I've watched it a couple times this week. I thought we got caught up in that, which can be a good thing if you balance it appropriately. Then there were some times where I thought we took some wild shots and did some things because you get caught up in the emotion of the game. So you've got to be able to trust your system, be poised. Don't let anything or anyone steal your mind. I say that to the players all the time, but yet at the same time, you love that competitiveness that's a part of the game. You love that edge to it. You love that emotion, and we've got to channel that in a positive way.
Coach, this is Kevin. I have a question with you about your bigs. Last 3 or 4 games, Nana and Maverick have been in foul trouble with their ball screens, and I know that's a big part of your offense. Is that something that you guys are going to address so that way you can keep those guys on the floor a little bit more?
Well, yeah, obviously we're addressing it, but it gets back to my Will Rogers quote. Some people learn by listening, some people learn by seeing, some people learn by doing, and some people learn by peeing on the electric fence. And at some point, we've got to wait on those screens a little bit better than what we're doing right now. If I can't even begin to tell you the number of clips that we've showed and the number of discussions that we've had. So at some point they got to learn, you know. It's part of the growth process, and we've got to get better at it. I also think Nana and Mav and our bigs have a responsibility as well in that, so I certainly don't want to say that's all on our guards for not waiting on the screen. But we've got to do a better job there for sure. You know, I think you get, you know, 1 or 2 of those a game, but I think, you know, we're getting a little bit more of those than I would like, which obviously is your observation, which I think is a good one. No, it's more than that. It's got to be a balance, Jeremy, of him being aggressive and assertive with also playing hard without fouling. You know, if you go to the one extreme or the other, you go ultra aggressive and you don't have a purpose behind your aggressiveness, and then you're going to foul. But if you go the other way and you become so passive, especially on the defensive end, and you're thinking, well, I'll just get out of the way, or I won't set the screen because now your offense isn't as good or your defense isn't as good. So he's got to find that balance somewhere in the middle where he can compete and play hard without fouling. I think he's made a ton of strides. Now, I wasn't here 2 years ago. A lot of you guys in here covered the team. But at that point, when I got here, I looked at the stat sheet, and he was #1 in the country in fouls per minute played. So he's improved a great deal, you know, in that area. We need him to take another jump. And I think he has already taken one. We need him to continue to make progress in that area.
Spoke to the emotions of the game. A guy like Malcolm, a local kid, do you have to say something to him, especially a young guy, to kind of keep him in check beforehand?
Nah, you know, obviously he has a feel for it. We've talked about it. It being, you know, it's like a heavyweight boxing match. I mean, that's what it is, you know. So, you know, he knows that. He's been to the game. He was at the game last year. He knows what it's about. He's just got to be who he is, Marcus, and not get caught up in all that emotion. Is that easier said than done? Certainly it can be in a rivalry game or a game like this. So, you know, we'll work with them and continue to talk with them. But ultimately, at the end of the day, he's got to be who he is.
Tough outing for him last week. How has he responded from the Oregon game to where he is today?
Well, he's practiced pretty well. You know, I didn't think he was as ready. I said that last week for the Oregon game. I thought he played really well in the Dartmouth game. You know, we've got to get consistency, not only out of him but out of our entire team. You know, I say all the time I would take consistency over greatness any day of the week. And, you know, he's battling that. He wants to be really good. He works hard and he listens. And, you know, so I think there's a chance as long as he continues to have that disposition that he'll keep getting better.
How are the guys who are sitting out, and how do they progress over as the season started and less time?
Yeah, they're doing well. I mean, they're obviously, you know, one of the rules I hate, you can't travel, you know, with the team, so that we've traveled a lot here, Jeremy, in the month of December. I hate that just because I hate segregating our team. You know, all 14 guys are an important part of our team. But they're doing well. I mean, we practice. They're doing well. Guys will tease them because, you know, we'll practice while we're on the road, and we'll come back, and they'll have had maybe an extra day off from practice, although they worked out, and you can tell they got fresh legs. You know, so they give them a hard time. But, you know, they've worked hard. They're doing a good job in the weight room. Bass is working with them. They get extra skill stuff in with their position coaches. So, you know, they're doing well.
Did they go to this game, or do they have to?
They're allowed. Yeah, they're allowed to go, just like Ray did last year. Just like Ray did last year. Yep.
With the late game stuff, kind of addressed that a little bit Saturday after the game. Is there something you can do in practice to get the guys perform better in those situations?
No, I think just to continue to emphasize what we're doing, Marcus. I mean, you know, it's it's easy to, you know, after a game to have hindsight 20/20. I know that's your guys' job and ours too, to an extent. We have to evaluate the film and find out ways to get better. You know, but the reality of it is, I said the other day, we've been in 5 games with about 8 minutes to go that either we've been ahead, the score's been tied, or we've been slightly behind. Like, we've been behind at the under 4 against IPFW and UNLV. You know, no one's talking about that. I mean, they all want to talk about the other 2. You know, that's 5 of them. I mean, we won 3 of them. You know, we're okay. I mean, you know, stay poised. Keep learning. Execute details of the offense a little bit better. But I'm more concerned about the defense. Our defense has not been good enough late in the game. We've not gotten enough stops. I certainly don't want to take away from, you know, Jonathan Lloyd made 2 big-time plays late in the game. I'll give it to him. He made great plays. So I realize that happens, and you're not going to pitch a shutout for 9 minutes. I get that. But I just don't like the points per possession we're giving up in the last 8 to 9 minutes, Marcus, relative to the first 30 to 32 minutes. To me, that we've got to get more stops and be able to get stops and rebounds, and I think the rest will take care of itself.
Well, this is kind of again. I know recently Tracy's kind of been, in the doghouse with people, and the last 2 or 3 games, his confidence level has been really high. How has he practiced this week?
He's practiced well. I didn't know he was in the doghouse.
Well, not with you.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. He's practicing fine. He's been aggressive. He's balancing, trying to make other guys better, getting familiar with more of the weapons that he has. Playing with John Eakey for the first time, playing with Ray Rice, for the first time. Obviously, played with him in practice some, although Ray was on the other side on the blue team a lot last year, competing against those guys. So not a ton. So I think trying to balance all that and figure out, how this team fits and plays together from the perspective of his position at the point. I think he's getting better at it. I do. And he's been pretty aggressive. We don't want him to not be aggressive. That's not his game, and that doesn't do us any good if he's passive. I thought he got a little passive late in the game the other night. He and I talked about that. There were a couple plays I thought he, maybe were there, but Tracy's an unbelievable kid, works really hard, very vocal, has done a great job becoming more of a vocal leader. So, the other stuff, the offensive stuff, it'll come for him.
John, how do you think Malcolm Hill has done so far, and what will he have to do to take his game up a notch as the season goes on?
Be more consistent. It's really that simple. I do think he knows our defensive system as he should, but he knows it a lot better than when he started, and he's probably a little bit more advanced in that than what I would have thought at this juncture, which is a good thing. On the offensive side, figuring out, how to be an aggressive scorer within the minutes that he's playing, yet not forcing things, taking care of the basketball per minute played, executing some things out of timeouts, some of those little detailed things, I think are what's the next step for him. But obviously he's talented and he's got a lot of skill, and we've got to continue to get the most we can out of him. He needs to play more consistently, I think, is the biggest thing.
You talk about Tracy being perspective of a point guard. Obviously, Jalen just has that because he's always been a point guard. How long is that process to a guy who's been an off guard to?
Well, I think it's evolving. Last year, obviously, he played that position for us, the point. That's what he played, and he's it's evolving. There's guys that play the point guard position different. For example, Clarkson at Missouri is terrific. He has 39 assists, I believe, and what would be, they played 10, Marcus, is that what it is, 10 games. So, he's 3 or 4 assists a game playing 35 minutes, but he scores it a lot. And what you don't want to do, I'm assuming, and again, he's Frank's player, if he's going to do what Frank wants him to do, but I'm sure he wouldn't tell Clarkson, just, we want you to pass every time. That's not using his ability level, as I see it, watch him on film, in my opinion. Same thing with Tracy. Tracy has the ability to score. He has to balance that. I've used that word a lot. He has to balance making guys better and scoring. I think as soon as you say, hey, you're just a setup man, you're taking away from his skill set, his best attributes, some of his better attributes, his aggressiveness, his ability to attack the paint. So, finding that balance, I think, is important, and it's ever evolving. And to be honest with you, Jeremy, it's very dynamic game to game, depending on how teams play certain things. And being able to read that and have a feel for that, I think, is something that he's gotten better at, but still continues to make progress in.
Was Pressey the biggest problem that you had as a point guard previously? Was he there last year?
He was there last year. He had a great game, really made guys better. Didn't shoot it particularly well, but had a lot of assists. Terrific player. They're different because Clarkson's 6'5". He's bigger.
He doesn't have near as many assists.
Not quite as many. That's exactly right. Not quite as many. but shooting it, scoring it at a more efficient level at this juncture than last year with pressing.
What type of game do you envision this being with Missouri? Kind of a up and down, fast-paced game, or more of a control game? It seems like it's been pretty wild in some years.
I think both teams are pretty good in transition, and we'll take that obviously if it's there. Both teams, have played a lot of man-to-man to this juncture. Both teams have used some zone. I think at the end of the day, a game like this comes down to toughness, physically, mentally, for the majority or the duration of the 40 minutes, and then players making plays.
Shannon or Steve, do you have anything from the phone lines? Not sure if they were on there or not. Any other questions from the phone lines for Coach Groce?
No.
Anything wrapping up here in the room?
Thanks, guys.